Good morning, friends, and welcome back to Live Reality Games. I'm Kirk. It's been a while. I feel a little rusty. I haven't seen you guys since the end of Survivor 41 and a few Live to Give podcasts, but it's great to be back. Survivor 42 is on its way. But today we are here to talk about a live game that is near and dear to my heart. This is Survivor British Columbia Season 5, 6,
You're season
7?
5, Kirk. I'm season 6.
Rockrain Valley. It is the name child or namesake for Gyra, as we found out in this season. And co-hosting with me today is the incomparable Steven. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kirk. It's exciting to be on the other side of the stage this episode.
Exciting, I guess,
And
could be one way to
sad.
say it. So this is going to be full of spoilers, folks. So if you have not seen episode 5 from season 7 yet, definitely stop watching right now. Go check that out as soon as possible on YouTube, and then come right back over here where we're going to break down everything of the pre-merge. So first spoiler, the next episode is the merger. That's old school talk, merger. So, Steven, it's really good to see you. We have a pass together. Mm-hmm. I actually got to watch Steven play his first live game. How long ago has it been now?
It's 2017. So, I applied for Survival Challenge 2017. I did not make the cast. They said, hey, there's this other game that's recruiting. You should apply for that too. And so I know what I was doing. So I applied to Pirate Survival Expedition 2017. And Kirk and Dustin, I think you were the two that interviewed me and my partner for that game.
Absolutely. And we were like, this dude has to play. We want to watch him play so bad. When you came into the Pirate Survival Expedition is all about hidden gold, finding treasure, lie, cheat, steal, do what it takes to get to the end. They really take that theme all the way. And you get to Rockrain Valley and they introduce the twist of coins. How did you feel about that?
So what you are saying about Pirate Survival Expedition is it was defined by the coin twist, where one of the abilities you could do is at Tribal Council, you could, immunity was always up for auction at Tribal Council, starting at 50 gold coins. And that, I don't think anyone played around that properly the entire season. And it destroyed alliances and strategy all the way through. And so as soon as I get to Survivor BC and we learn there's these Rockrain coins scattered around we can use to buy supplies, I'm like, oh no, there's something more to this. I don't trust that it's only for supplies and camp life. And I maybe go a little too crazy this episode with the coins and trying to ferret out the secrets of the coins, but at least later on down the road that they have a little bit more use. I felt very justified when I saw that.
Yeah, I bet it was a little bit of trauma. Oh my gosh, what am I back here again? I have to get coins, navigate this strategy. But I have questions about the coins to ask you because this season was live streamed as well on Facebook. So while I am spoiled, I watched the whole thing or as much as I could on live. I am spoiled, but we're only going to talk about things that happened to episode 5. So if you are also watching and you watch the live stream, I ask that you don't make any comments about anything else past episode 5 so that we can keep the viewers that are watching it for the first time fresh. But that's one of my first questions, Steven, is what is really the coin twist where you're going to buy supplies? In this episode, there's a lot of talk about buying the candy. And I remember this in watching the live feeds, but I never pieced it together. So what were you exactly thinking with that when you decided to steal the coins?
So at the start of the season, each tribe receives a list, and the list is like, hey, there are these coins hidden around camp, and you can redeem them for a variety of items. So 5 coins, rope, another 5 coins, tarp, and then there's different food you can buy at certain levels, then a flashlight or your luxury item. Things get more expensive as you go. But for 100 gold coins, there's one item on the list that caught my eye: Rockrain candy and sweets. But what made this so notably different was candy and sweets is in quotation marks. So I was like, why would candy and sweets be in quotation marks? Why would you need to quote? Does that mean it's not actually candy and sweets? I was like, what's going on here? Because it was the only item in quotes, and I was just like, this is really strange. And so as we're in the swap tribe, and Lori goes home, and I'm like, oh shoot. At this point, I'm like, I think I need to just take a wild swing at whatever I can to try to find some advantage in the game. And for me, I'm like, what if like Canyon Sweets isn't actually Canyon Sweets? What if this is like an idol or just something that I can use to my advantage? So that's why I was so like gung ho of like, let's steal the coins, let's buy the Canyon Sweets, and if it's something great, if not, what do we have to lose?
Absolutely. So did players on your tribe instantly go out searching for these coins? Was it was it more like you guys were kumbaya and talking? How did the beginning strategy of people looking for coins come about?
So you'll notice in the first episode, like one of the first things that happens is we kind of get there, we read the note, then we just kind of scatter in the woods looking for it. And it's kind of this great moment of like maybe having those initial one-on-one conversations. And that's where you have the scene where Taylor St. Louis looks and she finds the idol, but because we're all kind of wandering around near her looking for coins, she doesn't take it. And then Lori then swoops in like afterwards and takes the idol. So Taylor never gets it a second time. And so it was useful for kind of opening up those initial movement discussions. Pirates Expedition was much more regular about when the coins were being scattered. They were always back at camp. This was a little bit more irregular in a sense, but there were opportunities here and there to kind of get a sense like, okay, there's more coins. Let's go hunt down and find them.
Cool. Yeah, there was a lot of talk on your initial tribe with, I know Taylor and Kevin kind of, and Naya as well. They all have been first boots. Am I correct? Yeah. And
yes.
So there's a lot of talk about the fear of that at the start of the game. I know I'm jumping back to episode 1 already, but it's really interesting and really is. I saw a lot of the conversation kind of about this. Like Kevin's like, oh, I don't want you to be a first boot again. I don't want you to be a first boot again. Really what he's saying is, I don't want to be a first boot again, I think. And
Kevin is pretty rational.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I found that really interesting. There was, I'm going to just double back a little bit too. I loved the start of the game where you had the choice to either retrieve your items, your personal items that you brought into the game, or do a puzzle. I think it was this word scramble, maybe.
It was a word scramble.
Okay, I don't think they showed us the result of it.
No, I think the camera was not on the word scramble. So like that's why you see Nolan kind of pulling Jara and say, hey, Jara, it's been solved. And Jara's like, all right, everyone get back. Challenge is over.
Okay. Do you remember what the word, the solution was?
No, okay. I don't remember what the solution was because I didn't spend any time working on the word scramble. I was just like, let's go run, grab all my stuff. Because I was like, there's no way I want to sleep without a sleeping bag, a pillow, etc. when I have not access to it. So I was just like running back and forth and grabbing it. What happened when that challenge was off the side, there was a poster board with a clue to the solution to it. And Aline was trying to solve it, and so Keegan saw him, and Keegan's like, "Well, I don't want the other tribe to get it." So then Keegan and Aline were racing to get immunity, and Keegan won. And so I remember being a little annoyed, like, man, why does this guy think he needs immunity? Doesn't he trust us already? Like, it's something like that I had to think about. It's like, okay, this guy clearly is here to play hard.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed kind of gutsy because everybody took off for their personal items right away, and we're going to kind of see this like groups making the same decision, I think, kind of consistently so far in the season. It's really interesting, or kind of similar results. So Keegan wins immunity, and right away I was thinking like, wow, he's got to feel so safe and in like such a secure position where he can really like navigate and start making moves. So your initial tribe is Rachel, Taylor, Kevin, Keegan, Tony, Naya, Lori. Keegan is clearly safe already. What's your like overall like initial first impressions of some of these teammates of yours?
So one thing that's interesting this season is that I mentioned before, this cast was stacked with veterans from many games. And one of the other things is some of these past relationships or experiences were very out in the open, some were not. So one thing I didn't realize was how much the forefront Rachel and my experience with each other in live reality games was. We had played Reelfoot Thick as Thieves that summer. We were never on the same tribe. We never, like, she went out pre-merge, I went out merge. The only time we ever talked was like at the after party because Rachel had spent a lot of time hanging out with my partner for that game, Katarina. And so at that point, I had played Survival Challenge and never met her. I had played Real Foot never really met her. And so when I get to like Survivor BC, I'm like, well, shoot, this third time's a charm. I want to play with Rachel for a change. I want to give this a shot. And maybe I made it way too clear I wanted to play with Rachel when we were racing back and forth and grabbing our luggage. I'm like running with Rachel, we're trying to already have talks with her. And David notices that, and that's something that's on his mind for the rest of the season. And so, yeah, so I probably made it too apparent I want to work with Rachel. And given that it was already, you got these rumors circulating like, hey, we know each other, I probably could have played that down much better. But I had no idea that was really a thing. But so Rachel's someone I really wanted to work with. Lori Rachel kind of fell into a trio, just because I think Lori and Rachel like we're close. Maybe thanks to Real Foot, then I kind of got thrown into that. I like Taylor a lot. She's a very, very bright, positive personality, and I really was like, oh, this is someone I can feel like I can really work with. Kevin, I think, is a person I learned a little too late. Like we really get along. We're very similar people, have a lot of same interests, and like we were able to kind of really nerd out about some of these things. And I was like, oh man, I really wish I had more of an opportunity to go with him. Naya was very pleasant, nice to talk to, but kind of an ethereal quality to her. And then Keegan, this is probably one of the mistakes, is like I somehow went through that first round of strategizing after we lost our first community challenge. I never talked to Keegan. I don't like, for a tribe of 8, that's pretty awful, but like I just couldn't find him. And you saw the episode, he's like off in the woods, like somewhere talking to other people. So I just somehow just never had strategy talks with him first round. And I don't think that helped me through the course of the game. And Tony didn't portray any of his real. Tony, I know he played Real Foot. I know he had past experience in these games, and so I thought he was kind of he was kind of like sitting apart from the camp that first day. Like we all go to bed, we're on the tarp. Tony's off the tarp elsewhere, and I was like, oh man, maybe this is an easy first boot. But I had no idea that Taylor had that connection. That they were going to lean on with each other and really become tight, and therefore Tony had kind of this protection that I didn't see coming.
Yeah, and it's interesting because for Tony, I've watched him play Surviving Maine, which happened after this. Excuse me. And Tony, I think, got 4th place. And he played a very similar strategy to how these first episodes have kind of come out, where he's not really with the group. He's kind of outside of he's ostracizing himself in some ways, like he's making the choice, but then he's still somehow getting in the loop of things. And then I think that is resulting in him not having a huge target because people maybe don't see him mingling as much, potentially. I don't know. But it worked for him in Maine, and I'm excited to see how it works in this season for him as well. I want to talk about we had a little bit of arts and crafts time in episode 1 where we're painting our tribe flags, and that's the craft time, which I personally love. I made a sword in season 5. I spent all my time just painting a giant stick while people strategize. I think I was playing Tony's game. And there's somebody was making something else. I can't remember what it was, but I totally vibed with that.
Yeah, so I want to say TSL and Naya were the 2 painters in our tribe. And then we also come up with little skits to present our tribe. And Rachel was pretty instrumental with the lyrics for that. And I was thrilled that we won that challenge. I never won a reward challenge, and I was shocked that we pulled it off.
I love the dance moves. Steven, you're tall like Tommy Tune on Broadway, so you have that long line when you do your I adore it. But at least I'm gonna talk some smack, guys. At least you did not do the Ula chant walking in. Oh my gosh, Steven, I had vibes from that season of Survivor that was older versus younger people.
Nicaragua, right?
Yes, Nicaragua, the purple season. And the what's the younger tribe's name? Do you remember?
I've actually never seen that season, but I know the scene. They walk in that first immunity challenge doing their chant, and Jeff's just like, wow.
And they're literally doing a similar name. I felt like it was like, Kristen, I just saw her in the comments, and I cannot wait to talk about you this episode, girl. Okay, so I have to give, Kristen's watching, I have to give a little shout out to her. So I binged the entire season again this morning. I woke up at 5 a.m., watched everything, and I had to watch it at 1.5 speed on YouTube in order to get it done in time and have an hour to like shower and eat and get ready for the podcast. So I get to the scene that's Kristen Williams and Chris Lord talking to each other. I've played a game with Chris Lord. I can't wait to talk about him a little bit too. But and I remember this about him. He can talk really fast. I can talk really fast too. So when you watch Kristen, who talks very fast too, I adore you to death, and Chris Lord at 1.5 speed, it is literally up to the point where YouTube can't keep up with the subtitles. Like it just stopped after a while. It was like, let's just let this play out. And I adored it. It was so funny to watch. So you guys come out, you do your arts and crafts dance, and we have 3 alumni give you guys the win. What was your award for this reward challenge?
Oh. Like breakfast sandwiches, food.
Oh, like warm? Like hot sandwiches?
Warm, fresh from whatever fast food place in Canada they got it from.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's a lot better than just like cold cereal, you know.
Oh, because you all just a box of cold cereal you're season to eat it for food, right?
I think all we had was like granola bars. And then we had what is that stuff called? It's not jerky.
Biltong.
Yeah, Jaira makes it and we fell in love with that.
Oh, it's amazing.
We called it Big Long because the word was scratched out and none of us had ate it before, so we didn't really know what we were having the whole time, but we knew it was good and it had salt. And salt is important, my friends, on Survivor. I believe it. So that's an awesome reward. Good for you guys. And my favorite part my favorite part of the challenge was the group. I don't know if it was your group, but they started with the penguin slap. They went, and I don't know what
was Ula Ula.
Yeah, it was. I thought they looked like 8 penguins.
My favorite part is like at the very end, David slip and falls and has like a little tombstone in front, and like. Not only I love that moment, it's the start of every episode too. So it makes me laugh at the start of every episode, like, oh, there's David.
Yeah, that was like, it's literally the climax. David's there with the poster, and then bloop, slips, falls right on his ass.
But he still has he still holds up the ending, right? He's still able to kind of make it out.
He does. It's like my theater class. I'm like, if it doesn't work out, you got to fake it till you make it. The audience doesn't know that it's not part of the routine, so just sell it, folks. We have a immunity challenge as well. There is a lot of challenges this episode.
The first episode's pretty packed.
Yeah. So we have the Move the Marble challenge. We've got, and you end up playing Labyrinth at the end. The one hot take I have about Labyrinth is I had this game as a kid in the 80s at my house, and my parents would let us play it all the time. But my sister and I discovered there was a spot that if we hit the game board really hard, we could always jump a section of the wall to go to like the second half. And I was really waiting to see if anybody would try it out or if you were allowed to.
Both tribes struggle with that a lot. Kevin, it doesn't show how long Kevin spent that, but Kevin really did a great job navigating that challenge. And I don't think Ula Ula was ever going to beat him on that. But we spent a long time struggling. They had to basically kind of give us like checkpoints through it to help us get in, because I don't think they anticipate how difficult that game was. Yeah,
it's a lot harder than you think, than it appears. So yeah, let's just get to the end of this kind of beginning of the game. You guys are safe, so all of the first boots on your tribe are not going to be first boot.
Yeah.
But ironically, on Ula Ula, we have Noah who becomes the Francesca, essentially, of the season. Yeah. That's got to be rough. I wouldn't say I wouldn't vote somebody out because they were voted out first, but man, that can't feel good to do.
It didn't feel good to do when we then did it. It's almost the same thing on our tribe next episode.
Yeah. We can get right into that because it was fascinating that you guys turned that essentially on, I think it was Naya, am I correct? For the second episode? Yeah. And that pains me, Steven. I wanted to watch Naya so bad. She played in one of the earliest seasons.
Season 2?
And I think season 2 is where my season was also filmed. So
I dropped the mountain, but you had less snow.
Yeah, thank God. But I thought about this too. I was like, we had to play on top of a mountain where we couldn't breathe. The air was thin. Like they would tell us to run. And I remember just being like, no, not happening. It took 3 days to get used to the air quality for me, or the lack
How thin
of
the
air.
air was.
Yeah. And then you guys get to play in a valley. And I'm like,
honestly, of the 4 Survivor games I played, the prettiest, best conditions was Survivor BC. It was sunny. It was 70 degrees. I had a sleeping bag. I slept great while I was out there because I got a really like line thermal sleeping bag, so I wasn't worried about dropping to the 40s or 50s at night. I had a blast. Like no, and did it. The only game I played, it didn't rain. Oh.
That's amazing, because you had some brutal rainstorms before.
Survival Challenge 2018. Nothing can top the rainstorm that I spent 2 days just cold and sad. And then I got voted out. I was like, well, at least I'll be warm now.
Yeah. Steven offers some great advice. If you play a Survivor game in the future and you are allowed to bring a sleeping bag in, I do recommend that you bring in one of those thermal, low temperature sleeping bags, even if you play in a warm area, because you never know really how cold it's really going to get at night, and if people are going to like snuggle versus not snuggle in the tribe. So I think that's smart.
My first game, the Pirate Survival Expedition 2017, we can bring a sleeping bag. And so I just brought the sleeping bag I had growing up, which was a cloth sleeping bag. You can guess what was never dry the entire game? That sleeping bag, and got thrown out after the game ended. So I definitely went and bought a much better one for Survivor BC.
Episode 2 is the iconic moment where you guys get to is this the one where you're dragging each other, or not?
The iconic moment is when Rachel drags Kristen like through the box to the end, and this is one that has ramifications for the rest of the game. And so, well, there's 2 challenges that matter. This is the first one, right? Because this ends up injuring Kristen's knee, and that becomes more and more of a noticeable problem for her as the season progresses.
Absolutely. And we see a really intense moment with Kristen in this last episode about that. There are some great matches, though. I love Chris Lord versus Kevin. Woo! That's exciting.
Kevin wins both his matches, doesn't he?
Yeah, barely at times.
Kevin, like, we sucked at this. Like, I was horrified how bad our tribe did at this challenge, but Kevin was the one who was really carrying us.
Yeah, it was fascinating. I mean, I love players that just don't give up in this challenge and they keep fighting. Chris Lord literally gets inside of the ring, like half or part of his body, so he can help hold it into place. And they're like falling down, getting up, falling down. I think it was Stacy versus Taylor was another just fascinating challenge. It just went back and forth. Taylor's hanging on so hard, as well as Stacy. Something that was I think it was you with David.
Yeah.
First, I just have a kind of a question. It appeared to me, and this is nothing against you, David, but it kind of appeared to me like he put you in a chokehold. Did you feel that?
I don't remember being the chokehold. You're talking about the second round?
I think it's the second round. There was a moment where it looked like his arm was like that.
I don't remember being in a chokehold. Because my youngest brother has since put me in many chokeholds, so I know what that's like.
Okay.
So it wasn't a chokehold, but I just remember we were on the ground, and I initially had a push towards our goal, but I was just slowly being clawed backward, just like, oh wow, I am not stronger than David. This is gonna be a slow death, isn't it?
You can see from his opening shot when he's running, his pectorals are just like bouncing. You're like, okay, dude.
So what was so defining was that that's the round that Jared's like, here's an advantage. You can take the advantage, but you forfeit the round.
This was I have a question.
Yeah.
Why did this advantage get placed out in your round?
I don't know.
Okay. I was like, yeah, I didn't understand that at first. Yeah. But then the rule is if you grab it, you forfeit the round. So I assumed somebody was just going to go for it, but you both go for the ring, and your team needed points at this juncture. Am I correct?
So at this point, like, we've had our first tribal council, we all stuck together. I don't feel no, we actually even haven't on the tribal council yet, right? Because this is before we've lost and voted out Naya.
Yeah.
And so like I don't feel like I'm in trouble, but also like we haven't strategized at all, right? That was, I think, one of the big faults of my game was like not realizing how much quicker, like every other game I played, you had like a full 24-hour plus before voting began. And here, like I met people like late last afternoon and now it's like noon. And so I hadn't really kind of settled in and started strategizing. And so like, I was like, okay, I want to show that I'm for the tribe. We're behind. We need the points. And maybe I have a chance to win the round. And I don't want to sketch people out, make people worried and like skeptical of what I have. And therefore, I was like, no, I can't go for the advantage. I need to go for the point. And we don't know what the advantage is. Like if it was like, hey, this is extra vote, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's going to be pretty critical. Like, or I would have gone for it. But like, even though like I think I had an ink like it could be an extra vote, but I was like, I don't think I need that right now. And so I went for the ring, and Ula, on the other hand, they all somehow misheard it. Like they didn't realize that you forfeited by getting the advantage. So David and I get the ring, and David wants the cake and eat it too. He's like, well, because he thinks he can get the ring and the advantage. And so he grabs me, he's dragging me backwards, and I realize he's dragging me to the advantage. I'm like, is he gonna grab it? And at that point, I'm like, I'm fine with him grabbing it, right? Because then I get the points. So I was like, oh, this is kind of a victory for me. And he grabs it. And like Gyro's like, point over, and David's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you grabbed it.
I love when you instantly say that because you acknowledge that you were absolutely aware, and it's one of those little plays it's not a big move, but I think it just shows how aware you were in that moment. And I like players that are self-aware and they listen well to the rules of the game and they use that to their advantage. But also in David's defense, it was the best way for him to acquire it.
Yeah,
the best, right? Because he's dumb, or he's
just
not
like,
dumb.
oh, my bad.
He appears like, oops, I didn't know. And even if it was authentic, that authenticity, I think, puts him in a really good position, right? He's not always listening to things. So like maybe this isn't going to be the strongest like social or mental player out there. So maybe this is going to potentially help David further on.
But like if we're gonna kind of deconstruct my game into big turning moments, this is a big turning moment, is taking that, because had I gone the advantage, I think my tribe would have also kind of rallied around it like Ula and say, hey, we need Steven. Like you saw at the swap, the whole reason why David's the last one picked for Ula is because everyone wanted him on their tribe. They didn't want to put him in that other tribe and lose access to the advantage. And then if I was in the same 3-3 position, I'm also playing the extra vote. And maybe I'm the one sculpting what I want the merge to look like versus David sculpting what he wants the merge to look like.
Yeah, literally based on the twist that happens this season where you guys have an even swap no matter what, there's nothing you can do about it. This advantage is literally the game-changing advantage of the season, put out by luck for the two of you. And it's like, it literally changes the tribal council before this. There's so much. I think this is the moment for.
I mean, extra votes are fascinating advantages because their power varies based off of when you are in the game. So they look like a convex function, right? So like they peak power in the early game, they nosedive the merge. When you have 13 players, it's really hard to play an idol correctly at an early merge. But as the merge progresses and there's less and less players, the extra vote gains in power again, because then you're like, okay, if there's only 8 votes or there's only 6 votes, 1 vote makes a world of difference. Right.
That's so true. That's a great way to put it as well. The less players there are, essentially, the extra vote is way more, you can navigate it much better, but it really only works at ties. I mean, we've broken this down so many times on our podcast. It's like, if it's a 4-3 situation, it doesn't help you. It's got to be a tie for a 1 vote scenarios, usually.
You need to have the extra vote persist to a revote. That's the other way.
So that's true.
Ties, right?
Yeah. But how often do we see that? I feel like we never do.
Not really. Though I did appreciate the U.S. Survivor kind of really giving players dilemmas with their votes last season. I thought that was really fascinating, especially with so much play around small tribes. Yeah.
Oh, true. Absolutely. Yeah. Because it impacts it more than the idol does in some ways when you have 6 and less. So in this, quick question. What happened to Rachel's eye? It's really red. Did something in the game occur to her?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't recall what happened to her eye.
Yeah, I was getting vibes from the season of Survivor where they had the hurricane and one of the players got dirt in her eye from the hurricane, and she had some
Jessica Lewis Millennials versus Gen X had like got grit in her eye, and so her eye is always like red and swollen for a large part of the season.
Yeah, so I was getting worried because I wear contacts and I'm always worried about conjunctivitis and other strange things, but looks like she's doing okay.
Yeah. Kristen notes the eye was from outside the game.
Okay.
So the elements, like Kirsten said, probably didn't help.
So Steven, you talk about in a confessional forming social connections, but I kind of get the vibe that you're trying to lay low at this point in the game. And I think that's very ironic because in the next episode or two, you are going to be chosen as the leader of the tribe. And did you see that coming at all?
Oh, no. Like, Kirk, you know me. I never am one that's kind of step up and take the leadership role for the tribe. And so I think Tribe BC was really interesting kind of learning about just perception and how like I am perceived by others, where like, you know, I'm 6'4", so if you kind of look at like he's male, he's tall, that puts him in a lead, he looks like a leader, but that's not me in personality at all. So that was like a really like moment for me to just kind of realize how I can be perceived by others. So that was it was really surprising to win leader of the tribe and kind of realize like, oh shoot, that's how they see me. And probably kind of amp up like why Ula wants to vote me out over Keegan.
So when you guys answered those questions about the other tribe, did you do that prior to the game at like
no?
At
so what happens is this is after after Naya gets voted out. We're at camp. Production swarms us. They take us all of us individually off in different directions, and we have to like basically do the touchy subject survey, but for the other tribe. And so I remember like Taylor realized what was going on, and she sounded like, do alphabetical. And we're like, what? And so like I just answer as truthfully as possible for it. And then, you know, we get the challenge and it's kind of reversed. We're trying to guess what they think about us.
I absolutely loved that twist. I think it was so smart. I loved it. I loved every second of it because it was like constantly forcing people to like just point fingers at the other team. And very soon you're going to be potentially on the same team. Yeah. And I thought, oh gosh, that's going to make for a messy situation. I have a quick question because we're kind of moving into episode 3 talking. Steven, why was keeping Tony better for your game than keeping Naya?
I don't think it was per se.
Okay.
You know, I think at that point I felt Tony had a little bit more protection because we're kind of like saying like, who's the first boot, who can vote? And at the time I felt like Naya had less connections, and so people weren't. I never really strategized with her or Tony, but I just felt like there'd be less blowback if her name was thrown out there and pushed for. And so, you know, because talking to Kevin, like Kevin was really close with Naya, but like, you know, Kevin was also trying to form like alliances with Keegan and Taylor, and so for him, like I was kind of like on the side of things he was trying to do, and then Lori and Rachel were not part of it. So like I don't know if like Lori, Rachel, and I could have brought in Naya and Kevin, but also like they were throwing out Lori and Rachel's name, so therefore Lori and Rachel were like they have to go. We can't work with them. So I don't think it was better for my game, but it was simply at the point like, hey, this is a start trying to with moving this game forward.
Yeah, Kevin's move where he related to what Naya was going through. He was extremely empathic in those moments, but his decision was to pretty much tell Naya what was about to happen and then vote with Naya against somebody in the game. And I think he even made Tony aware of this. I thought all of this was problematic for like winning gameplay. And maybe I'm wrong, but I saw this as a lot of maybe counterintuitive moves, like not actually good for Kevin's game. And I was concerned when I watched that episode. The way it was edited.
This was like I said in the confessional, as a human being and from empathy, like this was a very great thing for him to do. But from a cutthroat survivor perspective, this is awful because, you know, maybe there's a world where we get back to camp and there is this 3-3 schism that's very strong, and therefore Kevin is the swing vote. But that's just not how things were lining up this season. Where like we're acutely aware, like, hey, we think there's a swap occurring. We want to have some facade of tribe unity, and therefore Kevin voting like that kind of had him like ostracized apart from the rest of us and made him an easy target.
Kevin appeared to me to be attempting to adopt a strategy, which I don't know if there's a name for this, but maybe we could call it pick up the stragglers. Like as these groups maybe are coalescing, he's trying to maybe pick isolated people to work with. So he has a lot of maybe personal one-on-one relationships, maybe not a big cohesive group per se.
Yeah, and I think at this point, like Kevin felt like he had a really strong relationship with Taylor. He and I were building a relationship, but I think the problem was like, again, we were looking at it from like a potential swap coming, and like I don't want to kind of go 4-3 in a vote like this, go to 4-2. I mean, I want to pull up the wiki for a second. Because if you think about, like, I know this is looking to the future, the last season, the Golden Age, you have two tribes, and one of the tribes, the Semiamu tribe, is extremely split, right? From the very first vote, there's a lot of tension and fighting in this tribe, and this results in, like, the red tribe just kind of having the upper hand the entire game because they're much calmer, much more unified in this sense. And so I think we were really looking to not have that strife on display early on, like try to have it so no matter who we're swapped with, we're working with. Because imagine that it is a 4-3 vote and Kevin, Lori, Rachel, and I vote out Tony. And then in the swap, let's say it's still like Lori, me, and Keegan. Does Keegan ever work with me? I think Keegan's savvy enough, he throws me in the bus and more immediately.
Agreed. I think Keegan seems to be coming across as somebody who's willing to shift when they have to shift. Completely agree. So this is episode 3 we're talking about. Oh, really quick shout out to Lindsay. I'm personally loving Lindsay. 3 episodes in, she killed it in the drag people across the challenge. Like she really just was constantly trying. I love her grunts when she would just scream trying to pull that, like literally the strength. I love strong players, whatever that means, mentally, physically. And so see when people show that glow, that shine inside of them when they do those things, I'm just like, yeah, like more power to you. So I'm vibing with Lindsay. I'm loving her gameplay. So we get to the reveal of it's going to be a double tribal council already in the game. And you guys have the option to play for, is it play for safety, individual safety? Is this the one where there's 2 options?
Yeah, so you can either compete in the reward challenge or you can compete in individual immunity challenge. And if you do the individual immunity challenge, you can't compete in the reward challenge, you can't enjoy the reward. All right. And both tribes, every person opts to compete for a reward.
For reward.
Yeah, no one. And so literally if one person said, I want immunity, they would have been immune.
I was like, why did nobody choose that? Was it too much of a target? If you go for safety in front of everybody, is it like, oh, they're on the outs or they're too much power, they're too powerful? Is that the thought process here, or are you really hungry or whatever?
So this is where like I wish I'd gone for that, because at that point, like I still like we had this kind of unanimous vote. I'm kind of still trying to like. At that point, we started strategies, but I'm like, I really want to make people feel good about me. I don't want people to be sketched out. I want to make sure I show that I trust them and they trust me, and therefore I don't think I need this immunity. Therefore, I'm not going to go for the immunity. In retrospect, I wish I had gone for the immunity, because then like it would have taken some pressure off me that random people. It's like, well, Steven, will you actually vote for Kevin? Can you vote for Kevin? And then it's like, yes, I will. Please don't vote me out. I think it would have taken that pressure off me, and then maybe give me the wiggle room that I could have figured a way to save Kevin and flip the tides. I don't know. I mean, and had Kevin taken it, I don't know where the vote would have come from. I don't know if like people have been targeting me. I don't know if we would have successfully targeted Tony or something else would have happened. I can't say where it would have gone at that point.
That was going to be my next question. Had Kevin got immunity, are you the target? And
I personally feel like there's a high chance he could have been flipped. The target could have been flipped to me.
Yeah. So this is the superlatives. What superlatives do you think affected the game? Because we see this a lot in Survivor, where sometimes people get a new perception. I especially was thinking about Lori. She seemed to get a few negative perceptions and superlatives, and I'm not sure how she reacted to it.
As much as like I love touchy subjects, what's weird about this reverse challenge is like these superlatives are given to you by people that don't know you, right? And I think some of them maybe have some more weight, such as like next they get voted out or leader of the tribe, right? Stuff that's like more sheer perception than like who seems. It's like a lot of these other ones. You're kind of like, well, they don't know me, and if they knew me, I don't know if they'd actually give me this. And so it's kind of like people were pretty easy about shrugging it off. Versus like if we on our tribe had given Lori all those things, like Lori would have been much more ticked off. So I think people kind of just shrugged off in the superlatives. They didn't have a dynamic effect on people's game just because they're like, well, they don't know us.
Yeah, they don't know what's really happening here. But soon you're going to be on a team with some of these players. So some of my favorite, I thought it was interesting. People predicted the next vote to be Stacy and Lori. Am I correct that Keegan was the most attractive and also the one you want to punch in the face?
Yeah.
There's some beautiful irony there. Right?
Yes.
I was cracking up at home. I was like, yes. There's a phrase I've heard before that everyone secretly hates the most beautiful person in the world. I don't actually adopt that philosophy, but I think that's a good metaphor for that. So the Ula tribe goes first to tribal council, and we see Chris receive 5 votes. Aleem receives 1 vote. Stacy receives 1 vote. Stacy voted for Aleem.
Yes.
Chris,
she's repaying the favor.
Okay, yeah. So that was an interesting development. I liked how Stacy, after tribal, goes right up to Aleem to talk to him about why she voted that way. And I always think that's a really gutsy, risky move that some less courageous folk might find it easier to lie and try to pin the blame on others. So I found that to be a very strong move. I'm not sure if it's going to be a good move or not.
Well, and I think what we see this kind of burgeoning rivalry begin between Stacy and Aleem. They've now both voted for each other in 2 consecutive tribal councils. And I mean, jumping to the next episode, I think there's a very good reason why Aleem put Stacy in the other tribe. He's like, the one person I don't want to have with me in this 3-2 situation is Stacy.
It was sad to see Chris Lord go. I got to play with Chris Lord in Pirate Survival Booty Camp Season 2. He was 5th place, and he was the last of his tribe, the last one there, and he played super hard. He played a very similar game in the sense of like the manner in which he spoke to people, but one of the different things he did in this season is he was really trying to take the reins. And you could see many, many conversations with a lot of individuals where at the experience I had with him, Chris Lord did a lot more of laying low, I think on purpose.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges for Chris is that there's another person who wanted to take the reins, and David won the war.
Absolutely. Your tribe ends up going, and you guys vote out Kevin unanimously. Yeah. Like I said, I don't think there was much Kevin could do after he kind of the gameplay he did, right? Who else besides Tony were you a name that was also up there, if I remember correctly?
Like you've seen this episode. The main mistake I made is we get back to camp and I'm like, hey, does anyone want to talk? And Kevin's like, I do, and we walk off. And then the other 5 walk off in a different direction and talk. And they have a conference of saying, like, you hear Keegan saying, well, should we throw out Tony or Steven? And maybe it was Laura or Rachel says, sorry. He says, should be Kevin or Steven, because there were only 2 that's out there in the 5. And then the conversation shifts like, hey, let's make it be Kevin, but let's double check on Steven. So I just pretty much like have to race through that round and talk to every person, like, no, I'm fine with Kevin. No, like I'm with you. I can vote him out. Like, don't worry about it. And so I think that was poor strategy, like separating us from the group immediately, and like didn't help them whatsoever. And like maybe it would have all sit on Kevin, but it would have been taken a lot longer had everyone not been able to conglomerate like that from the start.
That makes sense. Episode 4. Gosh, we're almost here at episode 5. My first note says the aftermath for Steven cutting Kevin out. What could you two have done differently? And I wrote down indistinguishable question mark.
Yeah, I just was realizing like, wow, Kevin and I are a lot alike, size, personality, stature, and I guess one of the words is have is like I think you see this in Survivor Fiji with one of the players saying like, there's me and this other person, and like they're gonna say we're both the same, and they just need one of us, right? And I was afraid like they're gonna look at me and Kevin's like, well, we just need one of these two, like, and I want to make sure I'm the one they're taking.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I think there's a similar vibe. I've talked to players who play against someone who has the same name as them.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this thing in Survivor where we want to like hide in the masses, but we also want to differentiate ourselves from others in the group so that we can win the game. And it's very hard to do both.
Kirk, if there's another Steven on a season I play with, it would be very hard for me not to just irrationally target them.
Yeah, same. I was a backup for a game this summer. I didn't end up playing, but there was a Kurt in the game with Kurt. And so on night 0, I kept telling everybody that my name was Kurt. My strategy was literally be like, I'm Kurt. My name's spelled Kurt. Like, write down the wrong name. I don't know if I'm playing.
Would that have worked? Like, if everyone thinks your name is wrong, and like, and you get the host to also say it wrong, it's like, oh, he just missed saying what's Kurt.
I don't know. I was gonna try to see if it worked, but I didn't get cast, or everybody showed up. I was a fill-in.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
As somebody else try that strategy somewhere, I'd love to watch to see if they let it play out. We find out Lindsay, who I'm loving, has a secret. And she knew Kevin in real life, and her regret was not being able to play alongside him, that he didn't get far enough in the game. So I was like, whoa, I was super shocked about that. I don't remember that from the live feeds, and I was like, cool, that's awesome.
And this is like one of those rare relationships where it's not from a power game, it's that they are really good friends and they play D&D with each other. And so like when I went to Seattle this past summer, I got to hang out with both of them, and it was a lot of fun.
Awesome. So we move in to what I'm going to call the reverse captain twist. Usually in Survivor, the captain twist is you pick your team, or you pick one person on your team, and the opposite. And I'm loving it because you have to pick the player you don't want to play with. And that has got to be brutal. I mean, right away, somebody knows you aren't working with me. At least to the extent I was hoping you were.
Yeah, and like, so talk about like, this isn't large bad luck, but there's a lot of bad luck here. It's like we all play rock paper scissors. I lose consecutive times to win I get to be captain. Then I finally beat a lean rock paper scissors, and I get the honor of doing the first reverse pick'em. So I'm the one that learns the rules, has to make the first choice. I'm like, oh, great. I'm serious. Like, wow. Like I'm looking at my tribe, right? We have Tony, TSL, Keegan, Lori, and Rachel. I'm like, well, like I can't pick Lori and Rachel because I want to be in a tribe with them. I've been trying to really strategize heavily with Taylor, and so it left Keegan and Tony. I was like, well, which two would I have the least repercussions with? And like, I think Tony I can get away with without much worry, right? And later on after post game, the first thing Tony says to me is like, why'd you pick me first? That's his first question to me. I'm just like, well, because like I didn't think we had a strong strategic relationship, and I thought like knowing you probably like we could probably work it through. Like I think it could have been, if we got reunited, it would have been water in the bridge.
Such a hard decision, and then you can't control anybody else who's going to be on your team the whole time. Like it is the opposite of being a captain. I think you're a prisoner. You're not a captain of this tribe. And the people that walk away unscathed really are David and Taylor, who did not have to choose anybody, and kind of Lori and Kristen as well, because they had not much choice, right? So it really hurt the people, I think, potentially socially earlier. So what a different type of twist. I mean, just bizarre.
Yeah, so that's what I was like, oh, this isn't really a benefit to being a captain. Great.
It's so true. Then you guys, there is a very strange editing thing that occurs. And
the nighttime challenge?
I was confused. I think I missed the nighttime challenge the night of live feeds, and I think I didn't actually grasp the concept when I watched it as it happened in real time. So this is the test of resolve. I love the title. Do you want to explain what this is, Stephen?
Yeah, so we were all woken up at who knows when the night and taken over, and we were told that it's the test of resolve. In front of each of you is a delicacy called balut, like fertilized duck egg. And you have two choices. You can eat the egg or you don't. And if you don't eat the egg, what's going to happen is the next time you try to lose a tribal council, you'll go to exile. And you'll return to your tribe at tribal council. I mean, at this point, it's a 3-3 split across both tribes. Like, you have to realize, like, being apart from your tribe in that key strategy time is just the kiss of death. Like, because then, like, I think 9 out of 10 times your tribe just rolls and you say, he's not here, we'll give him up, right? This is easy. And so I was like, there's no way I can let that happen to me. And so all 12 of us choked in the balut because none of us wanted to have this repercussion.
Yeah, it's a terrible repercussion, but it reminded me of season 5. And at Exile, our season was not just 1, but 2 idols, actually. And so have you talked to production? I don't know if production would even reveal this, but was there an advantage at Exile?
I have not heard of. I don't think there was anything good at this Exile for us.
Oh God, then it's just terrible.
I think it was simply I think it was only going to be a detriment to your game.
Okay. Makes sense. I unfortunately probably would have taken the risk. I don't know. I didn't do it my season. I might have been tempted, but you're right. You can't talk to anybody. So that's a huge risk.
It's just like, if I was the last person I tried to finish the egg, because at least like there is no time limit. You just get it down. So I'm like, I'm going to take my sweet time. And man, there's one part of balut, like kind of the white part of the egg that just somehow gets this extreme thick rubbery texture, and like doesn't taste bad. It's just really hard to swallow. And so like I'm just like took my sweet time munching on it and refusing to look at what I was actually eating.
Like I've watched this clearly a million times. I've never done it myself. Is it like it's thick, it's rubbery? Is it
that
crunched?
One portion of it is. Now the most of it's just feels like hard-boiled egg, and I just played the game like if it crunches, it meant I didn't just shell it properly. Whatever it took to like make myself like get through it. Just that one ending part that's like the kind of the top of the egg was just so rubbery. It was just hard to swallow. Like weirdly, like the rest of it didn't taste bad. It was just hard to eat.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's always hard. It's what players who haven't done these games don't realize is that you're usually a little bit dehydrated, even if we're drinking water constantly. And it's even harder to swallow things when you're slightly dehydrated.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk a little bit about these eating challenges at BC, because I think there's a really neat twist in the next. I think it's the next challenge. Oh no, it's this one that comes up because you have 2 challenges. So this is the lots of locks challenge.
Yeah.
And you and Keegan team up to do the starting part where it's your legs are tied together and you do the in out strategy.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were shouting it that loudly until much upset back. Like, oh,
I liked it because I always think it's effective. And the only thing that hung you guys up was Keegan not getting the lock portion, which you used, I think, process of elimination really quickly afterwards and caught essentially right back up. So
I mean, we were very efficient with the 3-legged race part, and so we barely lost any time, even though the other teams solved it before us.
So after there's the unlock the locks, then you come back. There's lots of phases to this challenge, and then there's a caller, some blindfolded players. They run out to get a few different things. You have to open them, eat food, a number of things. I was fascinated by this part of the twist because we see blindfold all the time, and we don't see a lot of variation from it. But eating food, and then you have to be a caller right afterwards. This is a thing that LRGs can really play with. And I would suggest peanut butter.
Oh.
Yeah. Make it tough. Can you imagine? Like,
okay, like so like I don't know if I said this in the last recap episode, but like there's only 3 people who could potentially be the caller because we knew it ended with a slide puzzle. So the discussion was all who can do slide puzzles. And the 3 people who had experience were Stacy, me, and Lori, so And you're gonna laugh, but like the food item was oranges. Kirk, I don't like oranges. And so I was like, look, you can put me in the collar position, but you need to know I don't like oranges. I'm the only person of the 12 who probably don't like oranges. Please don't inadvertently gross food challenge me. It's like, and so that's why, like, that's why Laura's like, well, I like oranges and I've been practicing slide puzzles. We're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then Laura can't do slide puzzles. I'm just like, oh, I should have eaten the oranges.
So, okay, let's unpack this for a second. I've never met anyone who said, I hate oranges.
Okay,
Wait,
well,
what happened to you?
Word. I don't enjoy oranges. I don't ever eat them. I don't seek them out. I'll have them rare occasion, but like, if you had like, in a challenge, you can choose who eats the oranges. I am not going to choose to eat the oranges.
Okay, fair enough. Do you drink orange juice?
So I don't like most fruits, but when it's fruit flavoring or fruit juice, it's fine.
Okay.
It's just like actually eating the fruit I don't really enjoy.
All right, fair enough.
So like it's just like, and then Laura, like, you've done slide puzzles, right, Kirk?
Oh, I had PTSD watching it. That was the same slide puzzle that I had to win to not get voted out my season.
So the trick with slide puzzles is like, if you think of the top row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 are easy, but 3 and 4, you have to move them kind of together, right? You have to slide both of them back to back. And Lori wasn't able to do that. And like, if you can't figure that out, then you just can't win. And I was just like, I'm watching her. I'm like, oh, and I don't even know how you can properly coach someone from over their shoulder and how to do it.
No. It's so true. It's like watching somebody try to do the Tower of Hanoi and teaching them the algorithm. It would be impossible, but if you know it, it's the easiest puzzle in the world to do.
Yep.
Kristen was blindfolded and she kicked her second plastic bucket. At least she didn't break this one. Kudos to you, Kristen. I think you're still watching. I just hope that there's like it keeps happening, like Kristen versus the plastic bin.
Kristen versus the world.
Kristen versus the world, always. So if you don't know this, Kristen and I were both tribe leads for the same tribe at Live to Give this season. So I got to meet her for the first time and hang out with her for 5 days. It was super fun. So I'm a fan. I'm rooting for you. So let's kind of talk about your tribe really quick. So you are from your original tribe, you have Keegan and Lori. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And then coming in is your best friend David, my powerful player Lindsay, and then Stacy, whom you have a past with.
Yeah.
Multiple pasts with.
Well, now I do, because I played with Stacy in my very first game. We started in the same tribe. We are on the same swap tribe. We went through the merge with each other. She went out final 6, I want to say, that season. And I, at that point, was resigned that there's nothing to do to protect her. So I also voted her out, even though I was working with her, just because, like, I don't know what else I can do besides try to appeal somewhat to the majority. And then I play with her after Survivor BC in Victory House The Mole season 3. And so 3/5 of my games have been with Stacy and 3/5 have been with Rachel. And so to my knowledge, Stacy was not telling anyone about her extensive allergy experience, which was actually impressive that she had people in her tribe who didn't know that, or maybe Chris Lord knew and he didn't tell anyone. But she, like, one of the first who says, like, hey, don't tell anyone that I have experience. I'm like, okay, I won't. And so, but I mean, I heard hearsay about Stacey that when she plays games, she looks to play players she hasn't played before, which is great until you run the players that she has played with before. I was like, I don't know how willing Stacey would be to work with me over these two, over her original tribe. And then, David, we'd kind of been at odds. Well, we heads up against each other in that the previous round in the immunity challenge, and I think we both were kind of viewed as the tribe leaders per se. And however factual or erroneous that might be. And so I was very interested to kind of like talk to him and get to know him, and kind of like maybe it's like, hey, like we need to stick together as shields for one another. And then Lindsay probably became my favorite person in the tribe. Lindsay was like, I just when I was talking to Hannah last week, I was like, Hannah and Lindsay have very same vibes. When I play with Hannah, I desperately wanted to work with Hannah more than anyone. When I played with Lindsay, I was like, oh man, I really want to work with you. You seem like a solid ally. You have a great head on your shoulders. You're good at challenges. You have a phenomenal social game. I think we can really complement each other well and go far. And so I really, and you hear it kind of in this in the most recent episode, Keegan's like, yeah, Steven's supposed to talk to me, but he's just talking to Lindsay right now because I was really trying to work Lindsay, make her want to work with me. I was trying to do whatever I could to appeal to her, even though I did cast a vote for her.
Yeah, this is the tribal. This is the like you and David, your relationship, and you're battling each other. He got the advantage inadvertently, which ends up being the thing they need to win this TC. I mean, production had to know. They knew a 6-6 or this 3-3 swap was happening. They knew one person was going to have this extra vote. They had to have known, like, we are setting this player up for success if they choose to use it here. I don't think it was complicated strategy. I'm not going to give David like any points on that because it seems really cut and dry with 6 people. Like, you got to use it.
Well, so like some of the things that, like, I think Ula had talked about throwing the challenge. Like, they said, hey, whoever's tribe David's on, they should throw the challenge, just go to tribal council, protect the other side. And that first challenge, no one throws, right? I think we all competed legitimately. It was just we had the wrong person in the slide puzzle. And I think coming out of that, the strategy that round for me was like, first of all, I was kind of like, you saw in my confession, like, do I actually roll in my tribe and vote for Keegan and pray? Or do I stick to the 3 and pray that, like, they don't, because if David doesn't tell me it's an extra vote, I have a sense it is, but I don't know for certain. And I was like, well, maybe we can send such mixed messages of like what we're doing that they think that we're everywhere and we're all voting for each other and they don't need to play the extra votes. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's exciting to watch. It's the 3-3.
Yeah,
but Lori gets that extra vote.
And then like, I don't learn until post game. Lori had the idol. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So not only do they get rid of somebody that potentially might not work with them, they also get rid of the idol.
And like the first thing production asked me, it's like, well, Steven, why don't you search the idol? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, the idol was rehidden. I'm like, it was rehidden? They're like, yeah. Lori, it went out with Lori. I'm like, Lori had the idol? I was like I thought the idol was someone in someone's possession from my original tribe on the other side. Like, I thought one of Taylor, Keegan, Taylor, Rachel, or Tony, I thought had the idol at that point from the original Batman tribe.
Were there clues being left for players to find, or so it's like new idol, just find it?
Yeah, so I don't think there was any clue. They rehid the idol, and because I had no idea the idol went out of the game and the idol was rehidden, I didn't put any effort into searching for it.
Yeah,
so let me back up. So a little perspective in the immunity challenge in episode 5, after I get knocked out of the immunity challenge, right? There's a lot of mixing of the tribes. Like, it's not like Ula on this side, Bats on this side. You can kind of wander around, talk to people as the main players are competing. And I talked to Taylor, and Taylor tells me, hey, we got a clue to the Ula tribe idol. Did you get one to the Batman tribe idol? I'm like, no, not to my knowledge, we didn't. And so because of that, like, I didn't realize that, like, Tony found the clue and then shared it to everyone. I thought, like, okay, if we didn't include that, that means someone already found it. Well, clearly, Lori went home. Keegan and I have been clear that we don't have an idol. So I think that means that Rachel, Taylor, or Tony has the original Batman idol. And therefore, I don't spend time searching for it. And
yeah, it makes sense. If there's no clues being provided, it's kind of questionable whether anything's out there. And if you don't know the idol's already found, how are you going to know it's rehidden?
Yeah.
This is different from my season where pre-merge, there were clues placed at camp each round to kind of get us to the idol that was hidden at the challenges. And then post-merge, there was a clue hidden at every challenge or near the challenge. So we were able to utilize that strategically later on in the game. I don't know. It would be hard to play a game like Russell Hantz's idols, where you just blindly go through the woods. You're probably going to run into coins more than idols, clearly.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like, maybe there's a chance I do just wander, like, on my own, like, as Keegan's busing me to the Ula Alliance, and I stumble upon it. and then I can say, okay, let's change things, and I vote out Stacy or David probably.
That makes sense. Before we move to episode 5 and one of my favorite reactions with Keegan, we all lied to each other. Now let's face facts. Just a moment, just to for people that knew Lori, she is no longer with us, and just to honor her really quick, I know people that got to know her had some really strong relationships. She's always going to be part of the Survivor and LRG family, and I just wanted to acknowledge that for people that were close to her and her friends and family. She's missed. That said, episode 5, this is your episode, Steven. This is always hard to watch these episodes. Yeah. I really liked, I don't know who the cameraman was, but sometimes in these LRGs, we get awkward comments from cameramen, and something was said like, what about that 7th vote Gyrocast? So that they would just start, so you guys would just start talking about it. And it was like awkward silence. I loved that.
What I remember is, so we get back to camp, I guess we kind of talk about it, and I'm like pretty mad right now that like, clearly I should have like just flipped in my lens, right? That was the strategy was I should have flipped, and then I said like, oh, well, David, like, I voted for Keegan because I wanted to work with you and I trust you, and like David maybe throws me a bone, right? Even though like maybe he still decides to vote me out anyways. But we get a confessional, I think in episode 4.5, where he's like, yeah, whoever flips, I'll keep them as long as it's useful for my game. And so I remember like I take one of the immunity challenge notes, and I basically rip it into 9 pieces and make a slide puzzle. And I spent a lot of time teaching Lindsay how to do slide puzzles. I was like, hey, let's walk through the logic of how to do it. So that way, if we ever see another challenge, you can do a slide puzzle. And so I really focused on Lindsay and like having this moment with her, like in front of everyone, like, hey, let's work slide puzzles, talk about how these work and the logic and whatnot. So I remember doing a lot of that prior to the next immunity challenge.
And you guys call the challenge. You guys get the clue. Everybody seems to figure out what it is, which it's the infamous challenge from, I think, Australian Survivor, where you're holding on to boards. It's a team endurance challenge. It's been played out in many LRGs with various levels of twists. And this is a really interesting version. It doesn't look like what you're holding on to is very heavy at all.
No, it's kind of this corkboard disc. So it's not heavy whatsoever. It's more of a just endurance challenge. And Kirk, I've realized I suck at endurance challenges really badly. Like, I don't know what this key is to success and doing well, but I suffer vocally.
Me too. So I'm with you. And I think it's partially because everybody wants us to balance at some point, and we're like 6'1", and our center of gravity is nowhere near everybody else's, because I feel you, buddy. I don't win endurance challenges ever.
No. So I think both tribes talk about the strategy, like dropping certain people so people can just focus on one arm. And then like, it never occurred to me that David, Stacy, and Lindsay would just throw the challenge, take us right back to tribal council. I really didn't think it's something either didn't think about or didn't think they would do. And so, in retrospect, I should have positioned myself by Keegan, right? So that way Keegan and I can like at least fight it out. And, I don't think it would have ended. I think we would have still lost because, first of all, I would have sucked. Second of all, Keegan was knocked down on a technicality. So I don't think we would have won anyways. But like, I could have tried to be next to Keegan to kind of prevent that strategy from just sinking us. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that. And so therefore, like, we'll talk. Well, I guess we'll get into it. And then I think the reason why I position myself where I do is I try like you said, I try to be by people who are my height. So like it's like easier for me. That's why I'm next to kind of Lindsay, and I'm next to David to try to more balance out where my arms are versus like really down low.
Yeah, Lindsay's pretty tall, isn't she?
Yeah. And then like then we get to the challenge, and I'm. It was weird listening back because it's all about me talking about my incoming classes for my second year of my PhD program, my first year summer paper. I'm just like, wow, this is a blast to pass. Pass, Steven, that paper sucked. You shouldn't have done it.
Okay, my question I wrote down was, Steven's talking research. Is he literally trying to bore other people so they just drop out of the challenge because nobody else wants to talk about school except professors and teachers?
Kirk, are you saying my life isn't exciting and like
Do you want to listen to me talk about grading my 150 papers? No, like, no. I honestly, my question was, just to be honest, like, were you just trying to distract, or were you literally just like, I'm just going to talk about stuff right now?
Distract myself. It was literally distract myself and try to not focus on how uncomfortable and miserable I was feeling.
Yeah, for people who haven't done this, they don't think. Usually, what I hear is that looks easy. Why are people miserable? Oh, you don't know. It's so painful. Your back and neck will start killing you, and your shoulders. Like, it's a lot harder than you think. My favorite part of the challenge is Stacy versus the Hornet. Okay, so here's another story, taking us back to circa 2016, maybe. Stacy is in Pirates Booty Camp Season 2, and Stacy is on the Newbies tribe, and their camp location is on top of a giant hornet's nest, and they're sitting by their campfire, and somebody like messes with the log, and they live in the log that they're on, and they swarm out. And Susan Camosa, who won my season of Coco Pele, ends up getting bit like so many times, or stung, or whatever it is.
Oh my gosh.
I want to say Stacy got stung too, but I can't remember. So the whole time I wrote down, this has to be PTSD for Stacy right now. She can't run away from the Hornets again.
Wow.
Poor girl. So this is so we have Kristen and Rachel essentially winning, but Steven is correct. It's based on a technicality because Keegan took his hand off of his side. Now, I love BC. I love a lot of challenges, but this is where I'm going to be critical about the season. And I do this with love. Too many LRGs, in my opinion, are trying to do endurance challenges, but then we add in rules to make them go faster.
Yeah.
And then the whole point of the challenge becomes irrelevant. What the challenge became was who can keep their arm on their side the longest, instead of really holding on to this. So what I've been pushing for teams to think about is like, how can we still do endurance challenges? How can we do them in the time frame that we need? But when we add in these lemon rules, how can the lemon rules feel more a part of the challenge? Like, I don't know the answer, but I'd love to see teams kind of look at that, because it does feel like what you said. It feels like Keegan lost on a technicality, which then just seems to be, it doesn't feel like I watched the challenge.
Yeah, no, I think Survival Challenge 2019, probably the best rendition of this challenge, where it was similar, where you have discs that are being held up by two players, but then there were sandbags stacked on the discs. Not only is it endurance, you have the balance aspect, and that really expedited the challenge. And so, yeah, and I agree that I think LRGs need to either think about how do we amp up the difficulty, or how do you make, or like, it's just, we want endurance challenges, but we don't have time for endurance challenges. So I don't know. Yeah, something else that it's kind of hard to tell in the episode, and only from talking to Kristen, but Kristen is essentially telling or mouthing to David to drop. Like, she's telling Stacy and David, like, hey, throw the challenge, so the challenge. And they do. They see her and they do. And so when they drop, they throw. Lindsay, however, doesn't get the message, so she and Keegan legitimately compete the rest of the challenge.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and Kristen's like crying, her neck. When they told them to look up, she really looked up. Like, she cranked that.
And like, and her knee's in a ton of pain. Like, Kristen, I'm impressed that Kristen was able to endure through that challenge, because she was in a lot of pain. Like, she just kind of crumples afterwards and doesn't even compete in the individual reward portion.
Yeah. So,
and I don't think honestly I knew exactly what was going on with her knee, and I think it wasn't really until post game, or like, I guess this, like, later on, seeing her in a formal brace was like, oh yeah, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that a couple times. I think that happened recently. I don't know if it was Real Foot with another Taylor. There was another event.
Taylor in season 9 of Real Foot hurts her knee in essentially the scrimmage and brawl challenge, and she is she's in a lot of pain, but still, I think she kept winning the immunity challenges that involved using her knee through the course of the season, which was impressive.
It was wild, yeah. So there's this, and we know Tyson making an injury appear worse helped him win Survivor. So it begs the question: how much you should play up injuries and let people, when you are hurting on Survivor, use it to your advantage potentially. Make it seem as bad as you can make it. So after the team wins, the twist is that they're going to play for an advantage. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's the waiter game where you take the tile, you hold a ball on it, and the person who stays there the longest is going to win an advantage. Rachel ends up staying the longest. She receives one of the most crazy things, and it's not that crazy, but she gets +2 votes.
So like, yeah,
wow.
So it's like a legacy advantage, but it's good for at 2 different tribal councils or something like that, or
it was
one?
good at 9, 7, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
5 people, and you have 2 votes. Woo! 2 extra, right? So you have 3 votes.
I thought it was just like 1 extra. I don't know. I was trying to think back to the season.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought they said 2 votes, but I
was like, huh? Is that what it is? Because like
I could be totally wrong then.
I'm looking back at the
spreadsheet,
the wiki.
Okay, so we'll let you know. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Rachel's history with advantages right quick, because she has a terrible history that she finds advantages quite a lot in Survivor, but she does not use them successfully. And in fact, in my opinion, they kind of derail her game, and she switches strategies. So if I remember correctly, in Survival Challenge, she had a fake idol, but it looked exactly like the actual idols, except it was a different color.
Yeah.
She tried to use this strategically at a tribal council, and it completely backfired on her, in my opinion, where she tried to make it seem as if it was an idol, but it didn't. People didn't buy it.
Well, that was a rough situation, because she's in a 3-5 minority, and she's trying to say, hey, this idol is real, and pretty much that they call her on her bluff.
Yeah. And so she attempts to play the power. It doesn't really work for her. I can't speak for Realfoot. I don't remember her getting advantages there. I don't think she did.
Well, she gets an idol clue in Realfoot, but doesn't find the idol.
That's what it was. I thought there was like a chance for her. Coco Pele, she found multiple advantages, and none of them worked out for her. She even had one that was like I think the way we phrased it, it was a super idol, but it could only be played on another person. So the person who owned it could never play it on themselves. It was kind of like taking the Jack Wire idol from season 5 here, but trying to balance the power of it. And all she had to do was give it to her teammate, Adam Bradford, and he could have saved her at that tribal council, but she was sitting with it when she got the votes, could not play it at that point, and went home with it. I think she still has Coco Pele's flute to this day. I think she has it at home someplace. So I see this. She has an extra vote. Is it just one? Did you look at it?
I think she has 1 extra vote.
Okay.
And she has an idol at this point.
And an idol. And Stephen, from my perspective, I'm like, oh gosh, she's done for. She has powers. With Rachel's history, I hate to say it, this is the nail in her coffin. I don't know what she can do at this point, even though it's so ironic. You think a player with powers is going to do well. Rachel with powers historically has not done well. She does better without, in my opinion.
We see confessionals from Rachel where she seems pretty set in, like, next tribal council, this idol is getting played. I'm playing it for myself no matter what. And to be honest, I like that strategy, because either she's going to 3-3 votes, and who knows who's going to. I think you see a lot of wooing of Kristen in episode 4, and so you don't know if like Kristen's going to flip or there's a rock draw. And then, come the merge, like, spoiler, now that I'm out of the game, it's going to be 4 Baton versus 6 Ula Ula, right? And so clearly it's like, if the Ula Ula just stick together, the original Baton players are all in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the next. I know this is the tough part of the episode for you, but Steven, you go back to your roots and you become a pirate. And you steal some coins. Man. And I was very proud of you in this moment. I was like, yes, you go.
Like thank you, Matt Raymer, for not putting more damning footage of all this in there. But essentially, like, we have a bunch of coins, and like, we're not spending them because we're like waiting to spend them or hoarding them. I don't know why. Like, oh, maybe there'll be better stuff to buy later on, or we're just not hungry right now. And start secreting away like coins here and there in my pockets. I'm in cargo shorts, and like at the start of like this round, I go to Keegan and say, all right, it's you and me. Let's figure it out. Let's do something. And that's where we kind of say, I think there's something with this Rockrain Candy and Sweet. So I start ferreting away coins, and like you see, like there's that weird tree with the logs on the side. We start like hiding and coins back there, and so we get the 50 coins. I'm like, hey, like I'm gonna try to get the other 50 coins, and so I'm trying to figure this out, but it's very much a me thing, and that's when like I have my pitch to the Ula Ula where they're just listening and I'm just talking, and then they go to Keegan. Keegan's like, oh, by the way, Steven's stealing coins. They're right here. You should. I just want to let you know he's going crazy like that right now. Don't trust him. And so I don't think I initially knew that Keegan was going to bust me, but like because I'm in the clearing and he's in the woods, and I'd seen them in a long conversation. And I don't know if like I see like him showing the coins on that, but I get a sense like, oh, I think Keegan's telling them what's up. I get a sense like, oh shoot. And at that point, I'm with the rest of the coins. I'm like, do I just take all these coins, just go buy the candy suits for now? I put them all in my pocket. I'm debating. And I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't steal this from everyone. And I kind of put them all back. I'm like, I don't know. And like, eventually come from the woods, and then I have more discussion with Lindsay, trying to convince her things, and it all kind of comes to naught because I think as soon as Keegan kind of revealed like, hey, look what Steven's doing, isn't this like untrustworthy, that damages my reputation enough. They're just like, Keegan's an unknown, but I think Steven is more of a problem at this point.
And you gave Keegan some of the gold, am I correct?
So I think because Keegan just revealed where all the gold was, I think all of it ends up back to the central pot.
Okay. Yeah. I remember like you taking gold out and it was like in your pocket here, here. You're just gold everywhere.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It was I thought a lot about things I could do here. And Kirk, I'm curious to hear which you think is more valid. I think the first strategy of the swap was to completely capitulate, say, David, you're right, I'm voting for Keegan, and just roll on my original tribe. And so let's say I didn't do that, and so episode 5, I should have just played dead, not done anything. And I think if I had done that, maybe like on parity, they would have voted out Keegan over me. I don't know. It just depends how worried David was about my relationship with Rachel. The more out there thing is I should just bought the candy and sweets. Yes. And just lied, say, oh yeah, no, this also gave me a clue that Idol hidden at Tribal Council, and I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
This is something I've realized in the past couple of months, not something I even realized then, but I feel like I should have just bought it and just paraded in front of them and said, I have something you don't, and I'm not going home.
I think so. And I know that's a tough strategy because you don't generally play. I mean, the reason you put the money back is you that wasn't the game you wanted to go further with towards the end game, because that making a move like that is you're going to have to do damage control later to get people back on your side and trusting you. But it seemed to me that once you had taken the gold, you've done it. I don't think there's always a way.
It's like the Ben Drybergen are in in Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, where he goes to buy his loved one's note, changes his mind, then eventually like he's like, oh, I have to buy it, and like because all the other tribes expect him, so he goes for it, but it's too late. The damage is done. His reputation's shot. And I should have realized I was in one of those moments, just like all in and just seeing what would happen. Because maybe like if I lie and say, hey, I'm going to play an idol, they get spooked. Like, let's just vote out Keegan because he's going to do it and he has to do it.
Yeah. So when were you able to go to the store and buy things?
You would just grab production, say, I want to buy this. Like there was no formal store. You just kind of gave your coins to production. They would bring it back. So like probably when I was alone, if I just grab production right there, say, hey, I'm buying it. Let's make this happen. Take me there. Like, and then like I can just see myself now like eating the candy at Tribal Council in front of everyone, lying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and so here's the 2-story arc with this, Kirk, that I promised you. Next season, season 6, Survivor BC Tribulation, similar Rockrain coin twist, or I guess just BC Bucks now. On the menu, there's also there's also candy and sweets in quotation marks. And the very first thing Tyler Kakuna's tribe is, they send him and he buys candy and sweets. You're like, why is it in quotes? What does it mean? And they get chocolate. And they're like, oh. Great. And they go back. And it was one of those things like when I was looking through all the projection notes, it's like, oh no, Jared, you like take out these quotes. It's like, oh, it's still already printed this out. I'm like, well, so season 8, there was no quotes on it.
Okay.
So I felt better seeing Tyler Kakuna's tribe also go for the candy and sweets after I went for the candy and sweets.
Yeah. Was it the most expensive thing?
No, I think your luxury item was. I think luxury items like were pretty high up there.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting that you could get your luxury item.
Yeah, so like you can get a flashlight, you can get your flashlight, you can get your luxury item. Like I bought a really nice flashlight that I never used in the entire game because I never bought it from the Rockrain store.
Yeah, so let's see. Steven, you get 4 votes at this tribal council.
4-1.
4-1. I think you did make some headway with Lindsay. She has a confessional where she starts questioning, when do I make a move? And she's starting to question like her position in the game, whether or not she's going to be kind of trampled over or dragged along, or if she's going to try to take the steering wheel. And for a second there, I thought, is something going to happen here? I'm kind of excited. And then, nope, lo and behold, they take a unanimous approach. 1 away from merge has got to be just a little bittersweet for sure.
I mean, I'd like to think that I would have been I could have been a better ally to them in the merge than Keegan could have been. I don't know. But I just think I just did myself no favors, made it just extremely easy for you to say, look at Steven. How can you trust that? You should vote him out. And they're like, yeah, you're right. We can't trust that. Let's vote him out.
And it's like, it's so crazy to think you can go back, what is it, like 2 episodes, 2 challenges to where you're at that moment with David. You literally have long ass arms. You could reach that clue before he could, that advantage. And you don't know what it is. It's funny, had your team been in the lead for points, I just wonder if there's a part of you that goes, well, I can take it now.
I think I would be much more tempted.
I think so too. And so it literally comes down to David, like you said, wants his cake and he's going to eat it too. It results inadvertently in him not getting the point, but they still win the challenge. It's just such a messy thing that if you have that, then Lindsay goes home. And now, if Lindsay goes home, then my question is, what happens this round? So I want to speculate a little bit.
The reason why we voted for Lindsay because we wanted Stacy to flip. We were trying to get a 3-3 situation where Stacy would be likely to flip. And I think had we known we had the extra vote and we could just slam dunk a player out of the game, I don't know if I would have wanted Lindsay to go home. I think I would have tried to push either Stacy or David to be the vote in that case. Like I think if I had to say of the 3 people, the person I would most wanted to take the merge with me would have been Lindsay, and I would probably maybe voted Stacy out first, David second, right? Or if I'm feeling truly crazy, right? Because at that point, remember, I didn't have a great relationship with Keegan prior to the swap, and so maybe we extra vote out Stacy, then maybe I flip on Keegan, I don't know. I think I don't think I would have wanted Lindsay to go home. I mean, so here's another question: put yourself in Rachel's position. Let's say you get the tribal challenge, and you see that Lori has gone home, right? And so now you see that another tribe, it's a 3-2 Ulu advantage. Your tribe is still 3-3. You have an idol. Should you throw?
Oh.
All right. Should you throw to say, okay, let's try to go to tribal council. Let's try to force the issue to try to, if we're playing tribal lines, let's try to have a chance to have at least parity of numbers at the merge. Should you throw?
I think so. And especially because, well, you're not going to know whether it was a unanimous vote, a 3-3 revote tie. You're not going to actually know. I'm wondering, and you guys all knew it was an extra vote at that point. I'm wondering if somebody's just gutsy enough to just tell the other tribe at the challenge what happened.
Well, we did.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a lot. Because once pillars were knocked out of the challenge, you can kind of mix and mingle and talk with the other tribe. And so I had conversation with Taylor, so she knew exactly what happened in our tribe. She knew that the extra vote was played, and she knew it was at 4-3, and that's how I knew that they got that clue on the other side, right? So that information had been shared. Now it wasn't apparent at the start, it would have been more gutsy just to everyone just throw immediately, but that information did come out.
Yeah,
the challenge.
in that sense, it does make sense for her to throw the challenge, use one of her advantages. She doesn't necessarily even need to use the idol because she would be in the same scenario with her extra vote.
No, extra vote doesn't work then.
Yeah, you're right. Oh,
I mean, so it's because she was already saying I'm use the idol no matter what. So she used the idol. Now, like if you're like, let's say that all vote for Aleem. So it's a 3 on Aleem, 3 on, I don't know, Tony, right? And now like Rachel plays the idol. So now let's say you're Kristen or Lexi. Do you feel comfortable with a 2/3 chance of one of you going home, or a 1/3 chance versus a 1/25? Right, it's a lot more. Now it's a lot more risky for them not to flip with Rachel idling herself in that vote.
Yeah, that's true. So that kind of forces their hand and forces potentially the flips if they know she's going to do that move.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. That really changes up some stuff, but it does put Rachel at a deficit potentially, because you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players then, right?
Yeah.
And then she has to wait one more round before she can maybe use her advantage.
True, but like at least you probably would feel better going into a merge 5-5 versus a 4-6.
True, very true. 4 never feels good at merge.
And because what's going to happen is we're going to see if Ulu is sticking together, original Batone's in trouble, right? There's 4 of them left: Rachel, Keegan, Tony, and TSL Taylor. And so if Ulu sticks together, like what's going to happen? Who are they going to target? Like if Rachel can play her idol, but is she going to? Will she play it correctly? I mean, there's a lot of questions with that now that she has to deal with going forward.
Very true. So there's so much speculation. It's in Survivor you can't. A lot of luck always is a factor, and I feel like that was part of it with you regarding that advantage and that twist. Because
luck and poor play. There's a combo of the two.
Okay. Because let's say David does not have that. Then there's not a clear strategy for the 3 of them just to stick together. Something else has to give, or you go to a 3-3 tie and you revote. And the question I have then, do you think any of these players are going to be the person who flips? My gut says maybe Keegan would. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, because I think if Keegan was going to flip, he should just flip to start with, right? Like, why even bother like the 3-3 tie if you're going to flip? Just like, unless so. Talking to Cole Coupland, like one of his strategies he used in PNW was saying, look to the other side, look, it's half of us, half of you. I am willing to flip, but I don't want to have you all vote for me and I flip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to vote with my tribe, and on the tie, I will then flip because I know I'm not going home. Right. Yeah, and so like if he was, so either you do that strategy, like, or you just flip from the get-go, right? If you're going to capitulate, I don't think, I think it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good Cole move. I'm aware of that. It's a good strategy.
And I heard that's like, oh, that's what I should have said. Hey, David, I want to work with you, but I need to make sure I'm not going to catch 3 votes here. So I'm going to cast my votes like I say I am, but I will flip in the revote. I promise you that. And so I just need to, like, this is my assurance that I'm not going to get like voted out because I'm the easy vote because I'm flipping.
And then you can commiserate together with like, oh, neither of us want rocks. No way. I'd never go to rocks. And then,
And so like at the time, like I was like, I'm like, I've never done a rock draw. It's kind of weird Survivor bucket list item. Why not? And then I went on the vote after.
As you said, what's your merge strategy? At some point you said you struck out. You were playing the game, buddy, and like the captain twist didn't help you. The advantage twist didn't help you. It was just twists. I feel like did not help you at all in this season. They were.
I mean, but I think there's still ways for me to kind of have. If I hadn't gone all ham on the coins like I did, I think there's a world where I slip into merge, and who knows where things go from there. Maybe I'm taking and like. Maybe I get lucky, maybe I don't. I go home early merge, who knows? But I think there is a route I get there, but unfortunately for me, that wasn't what happens. And at the end of the day, Keegan outplayed me. Keegan did what he needed to do to get through to the next round. He did it very successfully.
And so moving on, we are left with the merge. Stacy, Keegan, Lindsay, David, Aleem, Tony, Lexi, Rachel, Kristen, and Taylor. This is going to make for an exciting finish. I'm going to count up guys versus girls here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 women and 4 men left. Do you remember what the breakdown was at the start of the game?
Was it even? Yeah, eight men, 8 women. Like, this is the only Survivor BC season where you had that gender parity at the start, which was really exciting. It's a holy grail for live reality games to get gender parity, just with how the application pools shake out to be. And so it was great having a game like that. And then it was interesting seeing the merge was slightly skewed. And I think a lot of the women players in the season are going to have great impacts on the strategy and its evolution.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this pans out. Although, I'm spoiled. But like I was telling you earlier, I watch these episodes and I learn new stuff about the season every single episode. There's like a confessional here, something that happens that I'm always surprised that this conversation happened or relationship occurred. So tune in, friends. Steven, do you know when the next episode will be coming out approximately?
So again, shout out to Matt Raymer, the editor. He's been great at getting these out consistently. They've been coming out roughly every Sunday at 8 p.m. Central Time.
All right.
And
so
I think if I jump onto YouTube, I wonder if the next episode is queued up or not. I don't know. But I think generally keep an eye out next Sunday for episode 6, the merge episode.
Right on. Okay, we're going to be here at the merge. We're going to see who can shake it out. Just to recap really quick before we go, Rachel is sitting with the legacy advantage and an idol. And Stacy, we didn't talk about this, but Stacy has claimed what looked like a horn from Tribal Council, and that is sitting in her bra right now as a potential, maybe it's an idol, maybe it's going to be a fake idol. Stacy loves playing with idols, as we know, and even if it's not an idol, she'll worship it like it is and make it happen. So I'm excited to see what Stacy's going to do as well. People to look out for, I'd say keep looking out for Lindsay. I think she keeps talking about making a move. Is she going to make a move? And definitely keep an eye out on Kristen's injury. Let's see how that keeps affecting the game. And, I got to say, go Taylor. She was from my season. She was the first boot. I wanted to work with her my season. I didn't get to. She was on the other team. So I'm rooting for you, Taylor. Keep pushing.
There's definitely a little bit of a winner's curse that we see a lot more Baton on than Ula here, but I think Ula is interesting because you see Taylor and Rachel really wooing Kristen. I think for Kristen, from talking to her, Lexi and Aleem are really kind of pairing off, and she's feeling very uncomfortable with that. And so it'll be interesting to kind of see how all this converges at the merge.
It's going to be interesting because, like you said, we've seen Rachel really wooing Kristen. But if you remember from the very first episode, Rachel was saying how Kristen talks too much.
Oh, that's Stacy.
You're right. That was Stacy. So never mind.
We feel like there's a sense of a little bad blood between Kristen and Stacy, and then we know there's bad blood between Aleem and Stacy. So curious to see how the Ula relationships develop now that they have kind of this early majority.
Well, Steven, this has been a blast covering the pre-merge of BC with you. Like we said, tune in on Sunday to check out the next episode, and we'll have a recap coming to you probably in the next week following that. Yeah. There's so much good stuff, guys. I can't tell you enough. You should watch this episode if you have not subscribed to BC yet. There's a lot of content still coming. They are producing new seasons this summer, so there's a lot of stuff. So make sure you like and subscribe so you can follow all the content dropping from Survivor BC. This has been a blast catching up with you, Steven. It's been a while, so it's always fun to chat.
Thank you. Hey, Kirk, I just want to say thank you so much for, again, waking up at 5 in the morning to binge through all the episodes again and taking the time to really talk through the season with me. This was a lot of fun, and I'm sad that my journey ended like it did, but I think there's a lot of good gameplay left, and I'm excited to now get to see the game where I only watch it from an outsider perspective at the time.
Yeah. And if you ever need a guest, I'd love to come back on to another episode if you want. So feel free to
Thank
reach
you.
out. It'd be super fun. Until next time, friends, we'll see you soon.